Now, sometimes we want to pass data between these pages. Let's say we want this first page to display a person's name, and we want that name to be passed in from this first page. Maybe there's a text field where someone puts it in, and then you click here, and it just shows up here as well. Now, we're not going to do all that text field stuff because it's not really necessary in order to showcase the point, but we're just going to pass one name here and another name here and have it show up here. We're going to do it two different ways. First, using the basic navigation, and then next using the name navigation. So to start off, let's bring this back to the basic navigation that we started with. So we need to pass in our material page route and have this go to the first page. All right, so when you have a normal navigation where you just push the page route, you're defining the widget right here. So since it's getting defined here, you can just pass a value here, just like this. Now we have a problem here because this name field isn't defined. If we go to our first page, we need to define an entry field here. You do that by first creating a variable where this field can be stored in. So we're going to create a variable named name. I'll make it nullable just to keep our code clean. Now you have the variable defined right there. You need some way to pass it in. To do that, we just do this.named, and it gives a way to pass something to this first page and then assign it to this name right here. If we go back to our main, you see the error goes away. Everything's good. If we go to it, it's not there yet because we haven't actually displayed it, but the data is there. To display, we could just do hello and then interpolate the string. It's no longer a constant. So if we go to the first page, you'll see it shows up at the top, hello and Tadas. That's how you do it with basic navigation. Now, if we do the name navigation, it's a little bit different. See, the nice thing when doing it this way is that you define the actual widget right here. But with named, it is defined all the way up here. And we can't just do something like this because that doesn't really make sense. That means you would, every time you go to this first route, you'd have the same name, but we want to change what type of name it is. Now, problem, like I said, is this route is already defined, so we can't pass it into the widget directly. We have to pass it through the route. Now, to do that, push named also has a field called arguments. Arguments, we're going to put Andre, the name. So if you read this, the provided arguments are passed to the pushed route, and we'll retrieve them from that same route in this other screen. To do that, you do modal route, and then when you need to use that context that we learned about, so it finds the route of this specific context. We need to get the route settings from there, and then the arguments. After that, we have all the data. We can do hello args. Or I guess we could just name it a little bit better. We'll call it name. Okay, so now we go to the second page. Should see hello Andre. Perfect. And now maybe you want to do something on this screen where when you go back to this screen, you want to update it with that data. So we need this pop function to pass data back to the first screen. To do that, you can just pass whatever data you want into the pop method. This is from the second screen. In our main function, we just assign this as a return value from our push name function. And since this is a future, we want to make sure to await it. And for here, we're just going to print the response. So if we go into the second page, we see hello Andre getting passed from the first screen. And if we click pop, You'll see this is from the second screen message pop up down here. Now, when I see this, it looks a little bit messy. There's just a lot of things getting passed here and back, and I feel like if you have a really big application with a lot of routes, these things could be kind of hard to manage. Well, in a future lesson, we'll see why you don't actually use this that much, at least in bigger applications. If you're building a smaller scale application, or maybe something with not a lot of routes, it's okay to pass data like this because it's just simple. But as your application scales up, becomes bigger, that's going to be messy. And the way you don't use something like this, the way you don't do this too often, is using something called the state management. Remember, we learned about state, so this name we're passing in is technically a state, and we're just passing it between these screens. There's a whole topic we're going to cover later in this course about state management that keeps things a little bit more organized, and you don't really use this too often. But I wanted to let you know so we cover all the things that navigation does, and we managed to cover basic navigation, name navigation, and how to pass data between the navigation. So that's it for navigation.